Director Michelson.
Here.
Vice President Feldman.
Here.
President Reynolds.
Here. All right, so let's open the 11th of May regular meeting of the Coastside County Water District. And we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ken, I'm impressed with the flag. Oh, wait, 2 flags. I'm very Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, the United States.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Do we have any public comments this evening? Go on to the consent calendar. We had the claims approved by Director Mueller, and John, you found everything in order?
Yes, Mr. Chair, a couple brief comments. One was on the HASIC hardware. I talked to staff regarding, we all like those little ACE reward cards and who accumulates them, or if the staff gets to use them for the district, number one. And they do come to the office because we have spent, $1,600 there. And number two, there was a name on there, Ron Henrik, that was an $8,000, 200, and the general manager just explained to me that was a refund for someone that paid too much on his water bill. So that was that 8,000 there, and the rest I found no interest in it, and it looked all like it was in proper shape. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Did anybody have any items from the consent calendar they'd either like to comment on or have removed or pulled for later discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I move to accept. I second it.
I just have a comment, Mr. Chair. Staff, do we have to have a separate motion on each approval of minutes, or they can be included in the consent calendar as C and D?
They are.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine to approve the consent calendar with all of the items on it.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So Chris made a motion and Bob seconded it. Denise, could you take a roll call, please?
Director Mueller.
Aye.
Director Coverdale.
Yes.
Director Michelson.
Yes.
Vice President Feldman.
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. Thank you. Do we have any meetings attended or directors' comments which people would like to bring up at this time?
Well, the vice chair and myself and manager had one very brief discussion on an issue. And then we also had our other closed session meeting I attended.
Bob, did you have anything?
Yeah, just input. I had the opportunity to sit in at the virtual Aqua Region 5 meeting, which they held last week, which is normally held at the Aqua conference, but they don't have the conference, and they just have virtual conference that they do the region separate, or they did this time. It's probably the best attended Regional 5 meeting they ever had, 60 people. And essentially they talk over the business of the regional operations on the coast and just inland. So rather than go into the details, I'll let you know that Mary has a copy of a package which they put together and make available online to any and all people that are interested. And if you ask Mary, she'll forward you a link to the Region 5 minutes, basically, and all the stuff discussed. There's about 15 committees, and they talk about all kinds of things, but it's pretty well summarized, and you don't have to read it all, so it's up to you. But it did give me the impression that all of us are in the same boat, water-wise, and wise with the problems of people paying and shortages that are going to come. So it's a sort of a bleak perception in parts of all of the Region 5 members. So just so you know that. I don't know if you watch, Mary.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Chris or Ken, either of you have anything to add?
No, for me, no. This must be a Bosco month. There was not a Bosco meeting last month, so no, I have nothing.
Okay. Let's go on to item A, which is our Nunes plant project.
Okay, so I'll start. So today we want to regroup on the discussions surrounding the Nunes Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project. We met in a special board meeting on April 21st. And since that date, we're able to arrange for a peer review of the project specifications, which we'll describe in a few minutes. We provided two of our directors with a tour of Nunes, where we discussed the improvements in further detail. We updated our financial rate model with our rate consultant and met with our finance committee. We'll be talking about that in a few minutes as well. And, just in looking at, this project has been on our radar for a very long time. And even in the last couple of years, we've had a number of facilities committee meetings on this as well. Today, we are joined by Rich Stratton from HDR Engineering, who is the firm, HDR is a firm that did the engineering design. And we also have Jeff Tarantino, who many of you are familiar with. He's with Fryer and Loretta, and he's done a number of projects for us over the years. And he conducted a peer review of the project, which again, we'll describe in a minute. But I'm going to share my screen now and just, and we'll walk through the project. I assume that you can see my screen.
Yep.
It says Nunes Water Treatment. Okay, so let me just. Just to go over this project and about the Nunes Water Treatment Plant. As we all know, this is a key facility for the district. James and I were talking today, and it's, we think of this facility in Crystal Springs Pump Station as being the heart and soul of the district. 75% of drinking water is produced through this critical facility. And, we were throwing around estimates with HDR, but it would probably cost at least $40 million to replace this plant. So the plant was initially constructed in 1981 as a direct filtration plant with a 2.5 million gallon capacity. We recently stumbled upon a notebook from James Teeter that had pictures of the facility while it was being built. So at some point in time when you're in the office, you can come and look at this great book. But this was, as you can see, this was the original excavation for the plant. So very, very interesting. So, in 1992, the plant was expanded to be a conventional treatment type plant as part of the Crystal Springs project with a capacity to 4.5 million gallons per day. We added a sedimentation basin, another filter, another sludge drying bed, backwash supply pump, and generator at that time. In 2008, we upgraded the liquid sodium hypochlorite to on-site generation, but we really have had very limited replacement investment in the plant since 2008. So we're going to go through what our project, but you will notice below I included a picture of the sedimentation basin. The best picture has Joe Justino, but at some point I'll need to get James's picture with this. But anyway, before we get started, I want to really say that this is one of the most significant capital projects for the district in the last couple decades. This project will serve our ratepayers for the next 20 to 30 years. Approximately 25% of the treatment plant will be upgraded with this improvement project. Improvements will provide redundancy, resiliency, and will better position the district for future regulatory surface water requirements. So I'm going to turn this over to James, who can take us through the timeline of what's happened in the last 5 years as we've planned for this project. So James.
Thank you, Mary. So you see on the timeline here in 2015, we started to have failure of the filter valves and actuators. This was particularly happening with the surface wash. So staff changed out all of the surface valves and actuators in-house. If you recall the first picture, the filter gallery is pretty steep. So we decided there's pretty high elevations that you have to climb around on. We were concerned about safety and our ability to get it done in-house quickly. So we came up with a $500,000 project to hire a mechanical engineer to come in and do all the filter valves and actuators. And as we kind of put a placeholder in the CIP for that, our filter inspection revealed that the coating inside the filters has failed, and we have some exposed aggregate and even some slight staining from exposed rebar. We brought this to the attention of the committees and also the general manager, and decided that we should have a better, closer look at the needs of the facility rather than piecemealing it in smaller projects. So later in 2018, West Yost did a study of both Denniston and the Nunez plants of the needs for utilizing those facilities to the best ability we can. And in that study, they identified a need for a second sed basin at Nunez. As many of you know, we only have a single sedimentation basin, and we do not have the ability to comfortably take it offline and go to direct filtration due to changes in the surface water treatment rule. And we even looked at bringing in portable sed basins like Baker tanks and pump stations, and it just does not seem like a real viable option. Staff this study also confirmed staff's concerns about the filters, and also recommended the addition of air scour to reduce the amount of wash water that is produced when you backwash filters. This can be a big problem if you're running into some problem. You have to do some multiple backwashes. You can run out of room in the wash water recovery storage and be a little bit painted against a wall if you're dealing with some plant upsets or need to frequently backwash. So this is a little bit of a bottleneck of the plant where air scour will greatly reduce the amount of wash water that's generated. Later in 2018, we had a dive inspection of the tanks. One of the staff members suggested, let's look at the clear well. I'm glad we made that happen. I don't think it's ever been dove inspected in the last 20 years. Some sediment in there, but it did reveal that the coating in the clear well, this is where the finished water is stored before it goes down to the Nunez or the Carter Hill tanks. Identified the need for recoating and also repairs some exposed aggregate, cracking, and concerns about exposed rebar that could cause a failure in the future. In 2019, when we're looking at our resiliency and disaster preparedness as we were going through PSPS events and wildfires, we identified a supply chain risk and QC needs to have bulk deliveries of caustic to be able to make sure it's the right chemical, have a little bit more chemical on site, and then transfer it into the plant so that we, if there is a supply chain disruption, we can operate for a much longer time. January 2020, we contracted with HDR for the basis of design to get an idea of the scope and cost of this project. That was presented to the board later in June, and we, at that meeting, awarded the the design report for the water treatment improvements and awarded the full design. In January 2021, the design was completed and we went out to bid. And we can talk about that later. We're going to just go into the different aspects of the project. This is an interesting photo. This is the under drain of the filters 1, 2, and 3 that was found in that photo album. So one aspect of this project is the addition of a new plate settler sedimentation basin. Adding plate settlers to the sed basin makes it a smaller concrete box and a more compact design. And will provide redundant capacity so that we can eventually take the sed basin offline and do an inspection and replace and repair any of the mechanical parts that are in need, as well as look at the condition of the concrete and the coating. The filter improvements include 4 existing filters. Media replacement is due. It's about $50,000. It'd be a shame to do a media replacement and then a couple of years have to redo the filters then. So there's a little economy of there. Granted, it's a small amount. If you take media out of a water treatment plant filter, you cannot put it back in. Under drain replacement, addition of the air scour, as I mentioned, and some blowers, new filter to waste pumps and piping to allow us to route water to the head of the plant if we need to dial in the chemistry a little bit if we're having a plant upset. Other process improvements include replacement and addition of valves, flow meters, and actuators. The filters actually have, they're split filters. There's 2 under drains, as you can see in the pictures. There's that channel in the middle. They go to a single meter right now, and part of this project is to meter each cell or each side separately so we know how much water is going through each side of the filter rather than an aggregate of the essentially the split filter combination flows. Next slide. Thanks, Mary. Some more pictures of the original construction. The chemical system improvements, like I mentioned, addition of caustic soda bulk tank and a transfer pump. Concrete repair, the coating of the filters in the existing clear well. Silver improvements, including a soil nail wall that will be needed for the access for equipment to the new sed basin. Little bit of access road improvements and site drainage and grading, and some electrical improvements for the new filter to waste pump station is going to be required, as well as the blowers. So that kind of summarizes the different aspects that we've combined of all the various needs of the treatment plan into one project. I think staff at the beginning didn't feel like we were going to be able to address all of the needs over a span of 5 years as individual projects. And I think it was a really good, solid team effort on all of staff's part, as well as HDR and West Geos helping us define this project so that we have the most effective use of our funds. Bids, I'll hand this to you, Mary.
Okay. I guess first of all, though, I'll ask, do any of the board members have questions, particularly for Rich Stratton right now on any of these improvements? If not, I'll go on to the next slide. We went out to bid and received, we opened the bids on March 3rd of 2021. And as you can see, the bids came in between 8.3 and 8.8 million. The engineer's estimate was 6 million. So this was quite a surprise to both staff and ultimately to the board. We had committee meetings and discussions, looked at alternatives for perhaps managing this project separately from awarding to the high bidder. Looked into an alternative called CMAR, which is actually used earlier on in this design process. But at this point, there were, given coming out of COVID, high price escalations and other issues, we saw this big discrepancy. I I don't know if Rich, you want to comment on anything on the, on the pricing differential at this point?
Yeah, we've seen starting in January and February, prices started to go up. Contractors became very busy, and they weren't hungry as they were even just a few months earlier. And then part of it too is wanting to finish the design and make sure it's a good design, which it is, and it's a tight set of plans and specs, but we didn't really update the estimate from what it had been, and we apologize for that, not really appreciating the importance of that. And so we didn't really add some things in that occurred. There was some added costs from, well, we got some added costs from suppliers right at the end where their prices went up. We added some things into the scope of the project, some coding, some testing, some other items. So we didn't really update it as well as we should have. So, and we apologize for that. So we looking at in total and considering the market, we think that it is a good bid, that you're not going to do better by going out to bid again. So we don't recommend doing that. So for a critical project, we believe that moving ahead is the right thing to do.
So with understanding, seeing the discrepancy, we wanted to make sure that this is a major project for us. So we decided to do a fast track peer review of the project. So we were able to contract with Jeffrey Tarantino, who's on the call today. He has done some work for us in the past. He did construction management on a Nunes improvement project a number of years ago. He's done some work with us with the generator projects, and so he went through the documents, all of the 1,000 pages of the engineering design specifications, bid documents, and really, in the purpose of this was to provide an independent review of the contract documents to support the bid review process, and this included again a review of the design drawings and specifications. And the conclusion, which is included in the memo, including your board package, is that the contract documents were found to be reasonably detailed, coordinated, and clear, and they were complete to a level of detail and quality consistent with FNL's experience with similar projects in the San Francisco area. And they're also supported by the tight range of bids received. Jeff Tarantino is here. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to add anything or answer any questions for the board.
Yeah, I'm happy, Mary. Thanks for including me in the process. Yeah, happy to answer any questions. But yeah, I mean, as Mary explained, in my review of the documents, found good consistency between all the disciplines, the specs and drawings all well consistent. I understood what the intent of the improvements were. So just as somebody without having a kind of a lot of background on the history of development of the project, it was clear to me that these were well thought through and consistent with the level of completion that I would expect for something like this if FNL was preparing the design.
Mary?
Yes.
Good.
I have a question, comment.
Go ahead with your question.
I'm pleased that I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm pleased that you did the peer review to quantify and attest to the information that we've been asked to review and to sort of acknowledge the issues that existed and the fact that these things were tight bids and the document was well presented, etc. I do have one question that maybe Jeff and Rich can talk to, and that's in the closing part of your memo. there's something called potential construction phase coordination items. There's about, I don't know, 15 or 18 items that talk to CCWD and HDR coordinating during the construction phase with the construction people and making sure these are all clarified, that there's 6 addenda that are already been on the table. I'm not sure what those are to the bid, and maybe just give me some understanding of whether this closer coordination going forward, when that happens, and how much additional does it cost, or nothing at all? Or is that just part of the process, which we always do, that I'm not aware of? Because it sounded like there were things that weren't quite, weren't tight and that have to be looked into and worked on. And I didn't know the magnitude of any of this.
Yeah,
So
I can
don't
start
know.
off. Yeah, some of these are kind of clarifications, like with the drying beds. There's no work in the drying beds, so there's no cost there. A couple of the items were already addressed in an addendum. And then some of them, it's more of just clarifying on the special inspection, some of the inspection work that who's doing what. It is in the plans, but just we'll go over that with the contractor so everybody's on the same page. But I can let Jeff comment any further, but that was our sense of it. We weren't seeing anything that was going to add cost to the project.
Yeah, and Director Feldman, just kind of piggybacking on Rich. Yeah, I concur. These were, minor in my mind. They were very detailed, kind of, I'll call them persnickety. So I think that kind of further attests to the quality and level of detail that are in the plans, that it was just, these were really the things that I think these are minor items that I didn't see as being substantive in terms of a cost impact, if any. So yeah, no, I concur with Rich. These are pretty minor.
And I think we need to just make sure that whoever does the construction management, that they understand what testing they need to do versus what the contractor is going to do. So some of that will be worked out with the construction manager. So that's I think that was a good review, and thank you for doing that, Jeff.
Oh yeah,
that'll be helpful to coordinate with the construction manager.
Yeah, no problem.
No, again, I appreciated the depth of the review, and that was good, and that gave me some confidence. I just didn't understand the magnitude of the items there. A lot of them are technical, and there are quite a few of them. So you're saying at the bottom line, this doesn't cost any more when it's done, and it's done as part of the process of the construction management with the contractor who does the work.
That's correct, Dr. Feldman.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, at this point of the plant with the staff and the consultant professionals, are we losing any raw water at the treatment facility at this time because of issues of age? I'm just curious for my own good.
Yeah.
I know it's a silly question, but at this point,
I just want to make, are you asking if we're leaking anywhere?
Well, I want to make sure all the water that's inflowed is treated on the outflow and there's no discharge of raw water anywhere else.
That's correct. Absolutely not. We reuse every drop.
Thank you.
Outside of what evaporates.
Yeah.
Chris or Ken, do either of you have a question for either engineer?
No, I just want a comment, thank you, as we discussed at the subcommittee level, for this timely peer review, in that, as I'm sure the board knows, these bids do expire rather, next week. So this was a real timely effort. And I would agree, and I think maybe at the subcommittee level, it might be both of us might agree, putting this out to bid again would certainly be risky, certainly in this environment with unknown costs of materials. I mean, they're going up at a monthly rate. So while I think we were all kind of shocked at bids coming in at nearly 40% higher, some over 40%, this is the current environment in which we operate, and it would be a great risk putting this out to bid again. So I think we just have to really take this for what it is and manage it to the best of our ability to make sure that we really get a product worth every penny of the $8.3 million. And that's just my comment. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, may I ask one more quick question on this one? With the federal government and the state government seem to be putting a lot of money out in America. Is there any possibility for financial assistance on a federal level or a state level right now for improvements on water treatment? And it looks like I'm reading they are looking at infrastructure as water treatment. So just throwing that out there that we could at least be aware of possibilities.
So I may be able to answer that one. There's state revolving fund money that's 2% money. We don't qualify for grant money in the current. Could change in the future. One of the things that, and I think the staff is really well dialed into what the state, which is an extension, the state in California manages the federal money that goes out. And the staff's really dialed into what those programs are and what monies that would be available. And it would primarily come into borrowing. And the last time we reviewed it, John, it was very close, but a lot less paperwork. So the actual cost to the district to use our iBank and other funding sources actually gave us lower cost money than if we took it with the associated paperwork from the government. But thank you for bringing that up, and we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Ken, any comment?
I have a comment, Mr. President.
Please.
First thing is, could you turn your volume up a little bit on your microphone?
I don't know how to do it. I don't have a way to do it.
Or can you just sit closer a little bit? Yeah. You're just more difficult for me to hear.
Okay.
Else is clear. I'm really pleased to see the project vetted. I'm really pleased for the professional review. And, all I can say is that anytime as a member of this board, I really appreciate being more informed. And I appreciate that in a timely fashion so that we can move forward with projects like this that are very critical. So I'd like to thank staff. I'd like to thank Mr. Tarantino. And, I just appreciate seeing this. I don't really think that prices have gone up 50% in the environment. They've gone up. We know that 20, 25%. So I just want to make sure that the design people realize that we expect them to communicate more clearly as they see things changing when they're in the middle of design, helping us to understand the cost changes as we're going forward in the project. That way it's easier. We understand and we're informed, and it's easy to work together and approve it. We just don't really like the surprises. So I hope that the plans and specs are as tight as, as being communicated. I hope that all this, extra communication to the project manager occurs. And I just hope that there aren't big change orders to drive the costs up even higher. I hope that the plans and the specs are complete enough to where we can feel confident spending this money. I don't really think we have a choice. So I appreciate the fact that we can go ahead and initial this contract and move forward. And frankly, I don't know if it's appropriate yet, but I would move that we approve the contract and enter into the agreement and move on with the construction as quickly as we can.
I'll take this moment to say thank you to both groups. I got good feedback from the staff that HDR did a good job of listening, and I think the design is positioned to put us in a place where we can run this plant for another 30 years. And that's at a fraction of the cost of what it would take to build a new one. And so I think that we're investing prudently on behalf of the community. I think that we've addressed very carefully the concerns of a pandemic era bid project that has uncertainties in supply chains. I think that doing a peer review, which we don't normally do, but we did in a timely manner, and I thank that for that. And I thank HDR for assisting in that and making it possible so the board can feel confident that we are making a conservative and prudent and careful choice as we move forward, because the monies are large, although, as I say, it's a fraction of the cost of going from new. So at this point, I would make a recommendation. I would make a motion that we award the contract to Ranger Pipeline for $8,339,915 to complete the Nunes Treatment Plant Improvements Project.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion before we take a roll call?
Yeah, just one real quick clarification. So our estimate was actually 6.3 million. And so the low bid was about 30% higher than our estimate. So I just wanted to get the correct numbers out there.
Thank you.
Before we vote, Mary, you're going to show the next slide, or you don't want to show that?
Yeah.
Because we had a finance committee meeting to discuss the impact of the additional costs. We had concerns, obviously. We wanted to be sure going forward that this improvement did not cause perturbations to our future rate increase strategy and the things we've already discussed and agreed and seen. So Mary went back and did some things to verify that for us. And you might just want to mention that we came to the conclusion that it was able to be handled within the model that we've established with Raftellus going forward, and would not, if we look for sources of future financing, as was mentioned by Glenn and others, to do this, not have to really deviate from our future rate increase strategy. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Just so everybody's comfortable. All right.
Bob,
So it's expensive, but it's a way we can do this that will keep us to our commitments going forward to the community via our rate strategy. Thank you.
And actually, Bob, thank you for calling that out. And I want to comment to the board, my fellow board, that you guys have been really great about doing the extra homework. I know a bunch of the board members put a lot of extra time into reviewing the areas. The facilities committee looked very carefully at the project and how we would evaluate it. I think the finance committee looking at how we would manage the cost and so I really appreciate it. I know I personally got a lot of feedback from the rest of the board, and I really appreciate everybody pitching in, staff, board, and engineers to make sure that we crossed all the T's and dotted our I's and done a good job on this. So thank you all for your work. So we have a first and we have a second. Denise, could we call a roll call, please?
Denise here, on mute.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Director Muller,
Aye, yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right. Having spent that much money, I'm exhausted.
Mary, will we in some fashion provide some kind of communication in general manner to get it on the table. You're going to get some questions about this, I'm sure, from the review and other people. So are we going to let people know in advance about the plans we have, and in a high level, just to get them on board? That's the question.
We can consider that. This is a very large project for us, so I think it's a great project for the community. So this is, I think it's something that we need to share.
Okay, just my thoughts, man.
Yeah.
What's in the middle here? Oh, something else. Oh, yeah.
All right. So now we're moved on to the next item, B, which is the water shortage contingency plan, stage 1, water shortage advisory with a request for volunteer reductions. Kathleen, you're on. Gotta unmute though.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Excellent. So staff is recommending that the Board of Directors authorize the implementation of the water shortage contingency plan at stage 1, which is the water shortage advisory, and adopt resolution 2021-02. So the water shortage advisory would urge customers to reduce their irrigation by 10% and to also reduce other outdoor water use this summer and even into the fall. The 10% reduction in irrigation this summer and fall would probably be about 5% reduction in total water use if we get our customers to voluntarily cut back on their irrigation. And that is consistent with the district's current water shortage contingency plan for a water shortage advisory. So the water shortage advisory relies on voluntary actions by our customers to meet the district's goals for saving water. The water shortage advisory is consistent with the request from San Francisco to reduce irrigation by 10% for the regional water system. So it includes the San Francisco's retail customers and all the wholesale customers. In the week since my staff report was written and the resolution was written, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency due to drought for multiple California watersheds and counties. San Mateo was not part of that drought declaration, but things are changing quickly. I think Alameda, there were some Bay Area counties included, added to that, and Contra Costa, yeah. So, yeah, drought conditions are changing rapidly, and district staff will continue to monitor conditions and update the board of directors of any changes. And so with the water shortage advisory, staff would update the website, prepare outreach materials for our customers. And I attached to the staff report some messaging from saveourwater.com site, which they have materials. And then we're also hoping that San Francisco and Bosco will also help us with some messaging materials that we can use. So if you have any questions regarding the resolution or the staff report.
This is John here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is, water conservation light, and I'm looking for water conservation heavy in the very near future. So I think we ought to frame this where we're letting our customers know this is kind of a first stage, but there could be a time in the very near future that it could get more severe, something along that line. You're the professionals, but I'm very concerned that this is just kind of kissing your sister, not a big time one.
Well, yes. So that's this is definitely a first step. This stage of an advisory, and conditions are changing quickly. So it's very possible that we'll come back to the board and make different recommendations as the summer progresses.
Thank you.
Any other directors?
Well, I just think it's a no-brainer at this point. We have no choice. And it's better start sooner rather than later, and get the ball rolling. I'm glad to see we're on this, and it's only a matter of time because all the counties are going to be tagged for this. We might as well get ahead of the curve. So I'm all for it.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the water contingency plan stage 1 resolution.
All right.
A and B.
A and B.
MB. All right.
Well, that's all part of the resolution.
I'll make a second to adopt the water shortage contingency plan stage 1 water shortage advisory with a request for voluntary 10% reduction on irrigation and other outdoor water use by district
Good for you. You said it wrong.
Attachment A and B. All right.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, just to conclude this, staff, when will this go into effect? Tomorrow?
Yes, and Patrick could clarify for me, but yes, we would start making changes to the website, and it becomes official immediately.
I think the sooner the better. Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, please.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Carperdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. All right, Denise, or Kathleen, I've signed the document, so I'll return the binder, and that'll have the signed resolution in it.
We'll check with Denise, but I think we'll have to get you a clean copy that doesn't.
Yeah, we can't have any holes in it.
I didn't put the whole.
Yeah, I have to take the attachment stuff off of it. And, yeah.
Huh.
Details.
All right.
Yep. It goes on the website.
We wouldn't want a holy water policy.
No.
All right, Mary, we have the strategic planning update, including.
Okay, so at the January board meeting, we discussed the possibility of having a strategic planning workshop at some point in the future. We also discussed that we had some homework to do. So, as we're considering these actions with drought and working on our urban water management plan, the board and staff have discussed the need to explore what local water source opportunities might be available to the district. Over the decades, actually, there have been numerous studies on possible sources that were funded by the district as well as other agencies. So right now, staff is exploring hiring a consultant and likely a hydrologist or a hydrogeologist to inventory local water source alternatives, including reviewing past studies, and summarize the key features, benefits, obstacles, including the legal and water rights issues. And that will enable the staff and the board to screen potential alternatives and develop a ranking. So this, we envision as a matrix that then could potentially be used in a workshop with the board. Staff has met with 2 parties. We have received, one proposal and are awaiting another proposal. So more to come on that issue.
Mary, thank you. I appreciate you moving that forward. That came out of our strategic planning session several years back, and thank you for keeping that ball rolling.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, John.
I'd sure like staff to visit with me. I have one main source in mind, and I don't want to share it yet with anyone.
Okay.
But by living here all my life, I know where the bones are buried.
That sounds great. Thank you, John. All right. Anybody else? All right, Mary, let's go on to our designated representative for labor negotiations.
We have one more item.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read it and skipped it.
Okay.
That's Mario's fault for not being on the call to get the award. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so over the past couple of years, district staff has been working on renovations of our district office. And so in the last year, you've probably noticed that we've painted, we've replaced the roof, the fascia board, and also behind the scenes, we've been working on a plan to renovate the hardscape. Staff has noticed over the last couple of years, degradation of the ramp and the stairs and walkway. So Kathleen, this has been Kathleen's project, and she's been working with a designer, Anla Associates, started this work end of 2019. She's taken the lead to design renovations to the front hardscape. And Kathleen, would you like to describe what you're envisioning here?
Sure. So, the hardscape project includes, trying to accommodate all the heavy traffic, foot traffic that we get on Main Street from local festivals and parades and, customers coming to our office. And we tried to stay true to the style and the architectural details of the building. The project includes using a colored salted finish concrete for the ramp, the stairs, the walkway leading up to the stairs, and then the landing itself at the front doors. We propose to eliminate the narrow strip of landscaping against the building and the walkway, to widen it, and then also widen the stairs leading up to the landing and entrance. It'll include new handrails for the ramp and the stairs. We're proposing a permeable pavers with a color of tan, red, and charcoal for the front facing Main Street along the brick wall to eliminate some of the landscaping there. We'll still have some landscaping, but we'll increase the permeable pavers. We'll install some drainage features to help with the downspouts from the roof runoff and direct that into the landscaping. It includes some concrete benches to provide seating area for people waiting at the bus stop that's in front of our district office, so they don't need to sit in the landscaping and up against our the wall there. So that pretty much, I think, sums up the hardscape project. Landscaping will be like a phase 2 of this project. We thought the timing would be good to put in the hardscape while our offices were closed, since it'll be very disruptive to both the employees and customers trying to come into the office.
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kathleen, I love to hear the word you said, color, because boy, we need to get some color in that office entry area there. And, with us in our professional water world, it's got to be some blue in there too, in my opinion. But you have a professional board member that knows all that good stuff with Ken. And my other request would be within the financial boundaries is I really think we need some type of visual sign that would inform people of the conditions of the water. In other words, we're in a rainy season, we're in a drought, we're in floods, so that's just a thought I have, because I really think we have a lot of traffic going by there, and we should really promote what this facility is made of and what we're doing to ensure Coastside has safe, adequate drinking water. That's just a thought.
Okay, well, yes. So it's not part of this hardscape project. I don't know if Mary wants to, but we are also discussing how to improve the signage on the building too. So that's kind of going on in parallel to the hardscape and landscape project.
And I think the staff has to really sell this improvement as safety, safety, safety. Simple as that. That way, if someone said, look, they're spending money out there, it's all about safety.
Yes, the safety is definitely part of it.
Thank you.
We did notice that as the exposed aggregate becomes slippery when it rains, and we've tried to keep it clean because that helps. But I think that no one could question that the safety will definitely be improved once the project is complete.
And I know you're not going to agree with me on this, but it has to be welcoming also.
Yes.
Welcoming to the board someday.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Softening it, we think will come a lot with the landscaping, and more of the safety and the durability is going to be in the hardscape.
Good. I'd be willing to make a motion to approve. I'm sorry, Mr. Bakhtiar.
One question, the budget the budget in your note was 60K. It's about 109. It's a little more than the budget. Did this come as a result of a broader implementation than was planned, or again, the costs have gone up more dramatically than we expected?
There was some scope creep on this project from in the beginning. At first, we were just going to do the ramp, the landing, and the stairs, and then it kind of creeped into doing the pavers, in front of the brick wall area, and the benches and things like that.
So the scope was expanded beyond what you initially planned.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Thanks.
I think, Mr. Vice Chair, I have a saying that doesn't cost, it pays.
Anybody else? Chris? Ken?
No, this is long overdue. It's everything is kind of looking long in the tooth, and like Mary had said, we adjust the roof, the fascia. Now it's time for the hardscape, and that'll complement the work we've done prior. So it's something.
Ken?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ken. All right. Do we have a motion? Who wants to make a motion?
I will so move that we approve the staff's recommendation for $109,868.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Chris, thank you. We have a first by John and a second by Chris. Denise, can you call a roll?
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Muller.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have Mary. Now we're on to the designated representative for labor negotiations. That would be you, Mary.
Okay, so what I'm asking is that you appoint me as the designated representative. We are in June 2022, the memorandum of understanding with the union will expire. So we anticipate that we will, over the next 6 to 12 months, be working on this agreement. So at this point in time, we would like for you to appoint me as the designated representative.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint
That's pretty pushy.
Second.
Yep, okay, that's first and a second. Any comments, and can we go to a vote? Denise, take a roll call, please.
Director Muller,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
President Reynolds.
Yes. James, you're on for a discussion of operations.
Thank you, President Reynolds. At the time of the report, Denniston was running, but unfortunately we had to shut it down today due to low flows and making some room for Leia to have some water to farm. So a little less work, but we always get sad when we have to shut it down. The staff, I just want to compliment staff. They did a really good job of extending a 300 gallon per minute run well into the middle of this month. So my hat goes off to their efforts. I would have said we were going to shut it down 2 weeks ago, but they really kept an eye on it and kept pushing it and talked to Leia a lot and did a great job. We've been preparing for the upcoming PSPS events. It seems like it was ages ago when we had fires and PSPS events, but part of that is we have installed new batteries and solar panels at the Cahill tank. We have started installing solar panels and batteries at Miramontes because that's one of the tanks that drops off when we have a power outage. More preparation for fire season. The rental brush mower has arrived. Nunes is very nicely combed and Alv's fire break maintenance is complete. And I just want to take a minute to reassure the board that staff's being very careful about what days and when we operate this equipment in terms of humidity and real fog warnings. And we also have a water buggy now to have it on site in case the unfortunate event that a spark does light something on fire. So I just want you guys to not worry about us operating this equipment when it's windy and dry. Darren actually asked me today if he could park it because it was getting kind of windy. I said, no problem. So just want to reassure the board and community that we're being very careful with this equipment. We replaced 3 hydrants. Staff at the treatment plants installed a new raw water turbidimeter and cleaned and rebuilt the filter aid system at Denniston. And they also replaced the treated water sample pump at Nunes. April sources, Crystal Springs, Denniston Reservoir, and the wells. EKI is 100% on Cedars Crossing. We're waiting for the BRE. Let's see, Mary, it's been forwarded to the city for review. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. EKI is working on the Grandview Highway 1 crossing design, and that's underway. Geotech is going to be out later this month for some geotechnical borings. And the HDR team is continuing to work on the Half Moon Bay Tank 3 replacement project, evaluating size, location, and cost scenarios with staff. And I think they've come up with some pretty good ideas and parameters that Mary and I are comfortable working with. And staff, I would like to speak on their behalf, appreciates the support of the Nunes project. It's very important. And a lot of effort's gone into it. And I think the treatment staff are going to be relieved, but also realizing now the real work starts to begin. So I just want to thank the board for their support of that project. If you have any questions, I'm here at your pleasure.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to request if the opportunity arises, I would like a refresher course of the facilities of our district with James, if possible. Nunes plant tour.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Through the president, I've got a question for James.
Yes, sir.
The HDR group, is that Stratton?
Yes.
Stratton and Ambridge and
Stratton?
Yes.
The person that designed the Nunes improvements?
Yes, he was in charge of the engineering team that designed it.
Yeah. So I would just like to be sure that we really are clear with him in the design of the tank and any other work that goes on in this district, that we would really like to be informed of changes or modifications, that we would like him to use a careful eye for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we don't really want another situation like we've gone through, where we're kind of panicked. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I, would really appreciate your closely working and watching and managing that process.
Absolutely. And I think we've already communicated that to them, and we will continue to communicate that with them. That this can't happen again with the spread on the estimate versus bids. They really get the message. They understand. But I will continue to reinforce that. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Chris and I were at the facilities meeting on the Nunes plant. We did get to see the rental mower work. And if any of the other board members have an opportunity, the steepness of the slopes that machine has trimmed is very impressive, at no risk to personal staff and not hours and hours of running a weed whacker. They've trimmed some very steep slopes, and as we get ready for the fire season, it's really nice to see us have that protected area around the facilities. And so staff's been jumping on it, and it looks good. So I think the board did a good choice to review that machine and get it out in place and see how it works. So,
thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like that.
Yeah, I can personally tell you, I watch that thing mow right through poison oak, coyote brush. I mean, it's amazing. Has anything stopped it? Have we had any mechanical issues at all?
We had a little battery issue, and they overnighted us a new battery for the controller, and that seemed to resolve it. And I don't know if it's just coincidence, but in certain ranges around the cell tower, it has a little trouble communicating if you're in a very specific spot, believe it or not. But I'm not sure if I believe that theory. I haven't seen it happen.
You have to get our grandkids to help you on those things.
Yeah.
Very good.
Not us.
But the capabilities were amazing.
It's been fantastic so far.
Cool.
good.
Thanks.
All right, Patrick, you've managed to try and get through an entire meeting without saying anything. I think you owe us a legal report.
All right, fair enough. I take it that this is time to go into closed session?
Correct.
All right, so it's 8:07 p.m. and the board is going to go into closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiators. Agency designated representative is General Manager Mary Rogren, and the employee organization is the Teamsters Union Local 856. And we can now convene into closed session.